Welcome to the Bringing Hope Home podcast. We're Bryce and Colette Schaefer, pastors, teachers, and madly in love empty nesters. We invite you into our home as we candidly share faith-filled, practical ways to build a strong and lasting marriage.
All right, hello. Welcome to Bringing Hope Home. We are Bryce and Colette Schaefer, and we're so glad that you are joining us with another episode as we are been talking about communication. Big topic in marriage, and so we today are talking about kind of the negative patterns that we can sometimes have in communication fall into really easy.
Yeah, they become traps.
Yeah.
And then they become holes, and the holes we decide to keep digging. Give you the shovel to keep on digging. And that's not a good thing because when we need to learn what these are, so when we recognize it in our own life, we can say, halt.
Right.
This is not healthy.
Right.
And I am not bringing life and love to this marriage.
It's so easy to fall into these pitfalls, fall into negative
Well, that's all we hear
right?
at work and the gossip and the news, and a lot of people just feed off of the drama and the non-communicating that people do. You know, I always look at movies and I say, if time out, stop right there. If you would just say what you know already, that you know of this and that, we wouldn't have this problem. Just talk.
Just talk.
You know, I do that a lot in movies, you know, especially those romantic comedy kind of ones.
This would be over if you
This would be a 20-minute movie if we just did it the
solve
right
your
way.
problems right here.
And really, we don't need to make our life into a movie. We need to make it into a romance.
Less drama.
Way less drama is way better.
Yeah.
And so please, you know, listen to these today and just make a mental note of what these are. And if one really pricks your heart of, ooh, that one I need to watch a little bit.
Right.
Go
Because
ahead
some of
and do
these
that.
we fall into because it's what we've seen our whole lives. Maybe our parents did this in a relationship. This is how they talked. Like you said, it's just all around us, right? From movies and TV to what we're entertained with. You know, if you're watching things like
Well,
all
those reality shows.
It's all just drama,
Yeah.
and they fall into these over and over and over. I mean,
And-
if they didn't, you wouldn't have a show, I guess. But
Right. And I think we're creatures of habit, and we are created in God's image, it says. So we're created in a pattern. Mm-hmm. And so we fall into patterns, and we like things to work in a easy, you know, box kind of way. Mm-hmm. But again, let's work it into God's kind of a box. Let's work it into life-bringing communication rather than death and destroying our marriage kind of situation, for sure. So, yeah, let's get into some of these patterns that we all have done. And so we're going to say we've all kind of been there. Hopefully not for a very long time frame, or if at all, and we catch ourselves. And I would have to say for us, we don't do these really at all. No. But I've always felt like you could go there pretty easily on some of these. Yeah. So like the first one, escalation.
yeah.
And that's an easy one. A tit for a tat, an eye for an eye, hurt for a hurt.
Yeah, if you're saying something negative, well, you always, first of all, don't use the word always, right?
Amen.
Because there's not ever always. But that's usually how it starts. You always, la la la. And then the other one says, well, you always, and you're just trying to one-up each other on, well, you do this, well, you do this.
Right. You know what would be a fun thing to do with your spouse is do escalating with the good things. You know, you always give good back rubs. No, you are so good at those head rubs. You know, something. I mean, that would just make you laugh one night.
Yeah.
Just escalate with the positive. Just try it. Just try. I'm just saying, you might enjoy it. You might have a laugh in there but why would we laugh and feel uncomfortable escalating the positive?
Yeah,
because we're not used to it.
Weird.
Yeah, even right here with Colette and I right now, it's like, oh, that would be That'd be interesting. So we might have to try that
We
one
might
too.
have to try it. Maybe we'll try it and we'll let you know how
Let
it
you
went.
know, but escalate those positive. Don't slippery slope with the negative.
And it usually then gets way off track of what your intended, the thing was. So
Right, and you don't even remember where
you don't
you
even
started.
remember. It was, yeah.
Right. And then the next one that's negative communication is invalidation. If your partner has a perspective or an understanding in whatever you're talking about, don't dismiss it. Don't invalidate the one that you chose to be your spouse, because you are devaluing them, which is devaluing your marriage. And that you cannot have. I mean, that is pretty devilish right there. I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it. When you devalue them, and you're also devaluing God, because God gave that person, male or female, as a helpmate towards each other. And you might not understand their point of view or perspective, but then say, time out here. Explain this again. This seems crazy to me. But say it in a positive way, not in a demeaning, not in a derogatory way. And so that invalidation can really...
And even invalidating the roles that you have. I think women can easily slip into the mothering role, but also start mothering their husbands.
You're still a little boy.
Yeah, your husband is not your child to mother. And I can hear somebody saying, well, then he shouldn't act like a child. I get it. Then again, that's escalation. Build up the positive. Again, find the things that you love, that you cherish, and build those things up. Tell him, I appreciate how hard you work for this family. I appreciate that you...
your sense of humor.
Whatever it is, build him up. Find those things that build him up, and he's going to find more things to do to hear those.
Right. The insults don't help a situation. If a guy can't pick up their clothes, say, I remember you were in high school, or you used to play basketball, maybe we'll get a laundry basket and let's just shoot him in, or, something. Help the situation rather than demean and belittle a situation or your partner, for sure. So
maybe say, if you get all your clothes in the hamper, then maybe you'll have a little extra
something. Okay.
No, never use sex as
no, that's not good. But
Never mind.
Scratch that.
Scratch that.
Oh, that's good.
But
that kind of leads us to another one that's not very good, and that's withdrawal.
Yeah.
A negative pattern of pulling away and isolating yourself, isolating sex. That is not something that we should be doing in a marriage.
A lot of these are trauma responses, though, withdrawing. If you feel hurt, maybe your tendency with me, I know this is me, if I am hurt, even physically, I get quiet. And emotionally, I get quiet. If I'm hurt and someone really hurts me, I will withdraw. And, that's just my, you could say, trauma mechanism, response. We all have those responses. Some of it is, fight or flight.
Yeah, some come out, guns a-blazing.
And so we need to recognize that about ourselves and not let that occur, right? Those aren't healthy ways to deal with conflict or to deal with
Now, if you're
situations.
hurt and something really, hurts down to your core, to pause and withdraw for a second so you don't say anything back and escalate it is probably an okay thing to do.
Right. To withdraw and talk to God about it, and get His wisdom, and then come back.
And come back, but to circle back to situations and find the right time. And maybe you have to schedule the time to get back together on this subject.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, really say, okay, that hurt. And that is going to take me a little bit of time. But don't just zip up, clam up, and then they don't know why or what. But again, and we're all different. And so again, you're not a mind reader, but withdrawing is something that you in pulling away from. And this isn't just from one hurt. This could be months of withdrawing, spending more time at work rather than home. If you're doing that, why are you avoiding home? And that's important. So don't just avoid it. Start eating, picking that apart and figuring out why, and then fixing the situation rather than I'm just not going to deal with it. I'd rather just stay away. And while I can't control the other, I get that. So what can you control is you and what you can do and how you can help the situation. And then after...
We can only control our responses.
Right. And then God's going to talk to you on how those solutions, going back to 2 weeks ago, and He'll give you answers and solutions. And as He does, it'll open up the communication with your spouse to come at the problem together, and then make life happen, not death, in a home. Yeah. So that's one. The last one is just negative interpretations that we want to really to talk about today, and that's assuming the worst, assuming the negative.
And a lot of times that happens even not with your spouse, with somebody else. When you're going through the filter of already being hurt or already having a negative viewpoint, if you're filtering everything through that, you're going to have that outlook. Yeah. It's amazing. If you are in a good mood, doesn't it seem like everybody else is in a good mood? But then when you're kind of in a bad mood, it seems like everybody's in a bad mood. Maybe that has to do with your filter, that the way that you're seeing everything. All right. So the same thing for negative interpretations. If you're hearing it negatively, the first place to check is what's going on
your
here, your spirit. What's going on? Do you have anxieties? Do you have stress in your life? Because maybe those stresses are making you hear things a little bit differently.
Right. And again, you might have past experiences or a relationship that is then in this situation going to go to the negative for you. But you got to remember, we need to walk in now, and we need to figure those things out. Now, if it's with your spouse and it's a continual thing, that it's happened months, years, then you need to sit down and have a time out and a talk about it and try to sift through it. And again, usually they say Rome isn't built in a day. Neither is a solution if it's been there a while. A problem's been there for a while. So you got to have room to grow and time to grow, and checks and balances in there a little bit with your communication and how you're going to progress through this back to, on the up and up and moving forward with God and your marriage.
And I would say to start the positive, start things going in the positive direction. Yeah. Spend time looking at 1 Corinthians 13. Especially the Amplified version. But, we are designed for love. We are designed because God is love and we're made in His image. And so when we can line ourselves up with that, with love, and put on those attributes of the love character that's found in 1 Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, it's forgiving, doesn't take a record of or doesn't keep a record of wrongs done to it. Those type of things, it's going to help. Again, we talk about who can you control. That's one thing you can do. We can control our own filter. And so we want to be in love to control that filter.
And Philippians 4, 8 and 9 talks about whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is trustworthy. Think on these things. And so again, Come at it, how are I going to think? And it's your choice on what you're going to think about. Now, again, if you have a problem or a situation that's negative, you might have to talk about the problem, but separate that a little bit.
And you can come at it, any problem. Are you the critic or are you a cheerleader? So a critic just comes at the negative. You always, and nitpicks what things are apart. The cheerleader wants the best for the other person and says, hey, I see this slipping, or,
come on, you can
do it, right?
Right. Just snap to it. It's the old cheer.
You just made up your own cheer?
I did. It worked.
Yeah, but cheering them on, maybe whatever the situation, you can switch it instead of that critic to a cheerleader.
Right, and bring light instead of the darkness. I mean, that's key, and I'm finding that in everybody's life that I talk to, in my own life. Again, if you're going to just dwell on that slippery slope of I don't know and the negative, it's all going to stay negative. And the devil is going to use that as a playground in your life. But if you can stay on the light, what you know, what is positive, it doesn't mean you're ignoring those other issues, because that would be irresponsible of you to ignore the problem or again, distance yourself from it. But again, you're going to use it as a springboard of, I can figure this out with God and me and my spouse. We're going to figure this out. We're going to choose to make this the best possible situation. And I go to 1 Peter 5:8. I have it written down in my notes for today. And it says, be sober-minded, be watchful, for your adversary, the devil, roars around like a roaring lion. And I think the first two things, right, he wants to get into those cracks, but be sober-minded. What does that mean? Don't have rose-colored glasses. Don't have, bottle cap glasses on and distorting everything. Be sober-minded. And how you're sober-minded is know the truth, because the truth will set you free.
The love.
Yeah, the love. And then be watchful. You stop these those negative things. Be watchful for it in yourself, in your family, and especially if you're the guy, we're not going to put up with that. That is not acceptable in our home. And so we're going to be watchful for that undertone, trying to get in.
Not watchful for your spouse, watchful for yourself.
Right, and that situation.
Control. If you're listening to this and go, oh, my spouse needs to hear this. No, let's apply it to ourselves first and let God
for sure
take care of your spouse.
Right. And the last scripture that easy to come by in this situation is Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turns away wrath. If you want to deal with something, don't, again, escalate it. Mm-hmm. Don't invalidate it, your spouse as a person. Maybe the response is invalid for this situation. Well, then explain it. But don't do it in a demeaning tone, in poor communication. Mm-hmm. So a soft answer. And soft doesn't mean where it's, it's a quiet, it's a strong, it's a strength position, really, of we've got this. This is, okay, here's what it is. And a tone that changes everything. My wife is really good at that as a teacher. She would come home and say, this class was escalating and it was chaotic. And all I did was I lowered my voice, right? Mm-hmm. And I talked in a slower, more commanding way.
Well, even the kids, when our kids were little, people would say, how did you get them to obey? It's like, you actually lower your voice. Say, this is what I expect.
Right. And you're firm, those kind of things. So again, that's a little bit better on the communication rather than those negative patterns that we fall prey to as
we
people.
All do, right? We all fall into negative communication and negative, things because we're human. We default to those, but we can just God forgives, and
Yeah.
we can
Ask
just
your
pick
spouse,
ourselves up, for
ask your
forgiveness.
spouse
Say, I'm
for
sorry,
forgiveness.
I messed up. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we can
And
do.
then don't go and do it again, by the way. If you ask for forgiveness, then you're really trying to turn the other way.
Turn it around.
Yep. So,
Well, we
this
covered
is
a lot of stuff.
Another big
here.
episode, because I think it's so heavy on all of us that we learn to go in the right direction.
Yep, and we cover even more in our Marriage Builders course. We're going to share a little bit next week from that course, so you can listen to that. But we cover so much information on that. So the link will be down below. We also are offering a mini course, not really mini, it's 4 lessons.
It's quite big, actually.
The Power of Your Words, which kind of goes along with this. So you get 4 lessons with guided notes that go along with it. You also get a journal that has a reading plan all about scriptures on your words, and it walks you through just your morning time with God, right? Your prayer time, you're reading the Bible. It walks you through how to journal. Awesome resource. And then an ebook that has 31 verses on the power of your words, on words and confessions to make it apply. So lots and lots of stuff. We need to
go get it. Go get it today.
Go get it. It's really cheap. It's worth like $49 altogether, but we're offering it for only $9.97. So that link is also below.
Go get it.
You want to make sure
it'll bless you.
It'll bless you. So until next time, thank you for being here, and bring hope home to your life today.
If you're listening on the Apple Podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and drop a review. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a follow. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. See you next week.